Dear friends, it is my honor to introduce Michael Smuss, a Tel Avivan, by the way, and an artist also in Tel Aviv. And we basically met, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago when I was running my trips to Poland. And right away he said, I'm willing to go. So really, he really, not only does he like to tell his story, he really feels that it's a shlichut, he has a message that he has to bring. And we have an example here of a life story of courage, which is something can be inspiring and real at the same time of the realities of life. Without further ado, I want to give the microphone over to Michael Smuss, and thank you very much for willing to share your story with us today on Yom HaShoah 2020.
Well, shalom. So for me, today is a very, very difficult day. Usually on the Yom HaShoah, I am very, very for myself. And the last few months, we are in a quarantine. I am in a old age home. So for the last 3 months, I haven't been on the outside, and the thing's very, very abnormal here. I have no chance to talk to anybody except my wife, and she has enough of me. So I will try to do my best today to get my things together. And I start with introducing myself. My name is Michael Smuss, S-M-U-S-S. And on the Google, you can look into like 15 pages of my works. When I retired, I dedicated my last 23 years to the memory of the Shoah. And I went 5 times on different occasions, of course, with the Israeli youth to Poland. I went 10 times to the United States, where I had my lectures and my paintings. And in other words, for the last 20 years, this is what I'm with it. Although it's very difficult for my wife to לקבל את זה, but I have to stay with it. I feel that since I survived and I did get to that age, I should do my utmost to keep the memory of the things which have been so bad during those war years, during the time that they want to destroy the Jewish nation. I was born in Danzig, which is on a border between Poland and Germany on the Baltic Sea. When the Nazis came to power, my father didn't think that they would stay too long in power. He was a German educated Germanophile, and he said, well, let's go to Poland. And we went to city of Lodz. I came to the city of Lodz, and I went there to a gymnasium, a Hebrew gymnasium of Yitzhak Katzenelson. Yitzhak Katzenelson was one of the very famous Israeli poets, and you people can look up into it. And he had there the gymnasium just for boys. I went there to that. And my father was, of course, since he wasn't working, was working with me a lot on schooling and prepared me very, very well. So I had a rough time study, but I got very much advanced in my education. In 1938, I have joined the Hashomer Atzayir, which is the youth movement, socialistic youth movement in Poland. And I went with them for a few months to summer camps and so on. And then in 1939, the war broke out. The war broke out about 6 months after my bar mitzvah. That means in 1939, I was 13 years of age. The war with Germany, Poland was very short. And the moment they came into Lodz, our family decided we're going to split, since my father didn't have the German papers, which my mother had. So my mother stayed with the German Danzig passport with my sister, and I left with my father to Warsaw. Once we came to Warsaw in 1940, they established the ghetto. They established the ghetto, and of course, immediately, there was forced labor. It was allowed to start working at the age of 14. And I was just about 14. So the people advised me to listen, 14, they're not going to take you to work, make it 15. So they made my paper 15. So during the war, until the end of all the places, I was 15. I was a year older with more experience of work and so on. And we came to the Warsaw Ghetto in the 40s. There was about 400,000 people, a tremendous amount of people. And from all the towns, from all the places, they used to send over the Jews to the ghetto, absorb. And the amount of the streets assigned to us were very, very limited. So one thing which we were very fortunate that even before in Poland, we had a or those little towns everywhere. There was a Jewish community which was taking care of himself, and some of them even had the fire engine and organization. They had to welfare. They had all kind of experience how to take care of the daily needs and so on. So once the thing went in ghetto, we had a lot of people, professional from all over, to be able to organize the Judenrat, which was handling more than 400,000 people for to make it sure that they get some food rations and that they keep it clean, they keep the things going. I was very fortunate because I spoke German, so they took me to always to places that I translated also between the workers and the employee. And then I end up in a factory which was doing the cleaning up and repairing of all the uniforms, boots, and helmets of the fallen soldier from the Russian front. The Germans were fighting the Russian, they were dying there. They were taking all the thing and sending it to Warsaw. We were picking it up in Warsaw, bringing in the stuff to the ghetto, and we were fixing up the shoes. And hello?
Hi.
Okay. I see somebody with glasses I didn't know before. Who is that guy?
Gary.
Jerry. Okay. Hello, Jerry. Oh, Jerry. Okay. Now I see Jerry on the top. And that was one of my work since I was translating. I had a chance to go with the truck to the airport in Warsaw, where we picked up the load. They didn't want anybody should see that from the Germans, so we were just direct getting the stuff from the plane, all the crates with big crates wrapped up with wire of the uniforms from dead soldiers, bags of boots and bags of helmets, bags of tornisters and so on. We were loading them on our truck and bringing it back to the place of work on the Nalewki Street where the company was Brauer. Since I had the opportunity to go with the truck, the underground said, listen, in a certain place, you go by with the truck and pick up the packages, which was the guns which they acquire, and they left them on a given street on a Grochowska. We went by there, we picked up the packages, we put the packages in the boots of the soldiers and things like this, came to the ghetto, came inside, they picked up the packages from us, and the rest we took it to the factory. I was working in a factory on the helmets. The helmets were always damaged with bullet holes, and our work was to grind them straight from the outside and then put some enclosure with it, and then go over with 2 coats of paint to make them look fresh and so on. So they were painting, there was spray apparatus, and for that they were using thinner. And the moments we lay their hands on that thinner, we start stealing as much as possible and filling up the bottles with thinner and rags for the Molotov cocktails. So on the Nalewki where I was working was actually the factory which was preparing all the Molotov cocktails for the Warsaw Ghetto, which were later taken on the roofs of all the places. 1941, 42, in the times of the 2 years, I need more time to describe. It was awful. Every time people were thousands of dying from hunger, dead laying on the street, people walking by, then the pinkers, which were picking up like the Chevre Kadisha, we had to help them and so on with the bodies. And they were taking out 6,000 people every day, 6,000 people to work. At the beginning, they were sending in different places, really act to work. After that, they start sending into to camps, which we, at the beginning, didn't know. And by 1942, Polish people who worked on the trains notified us that the trains from the Warsaw Ghetto go always in one direction, and then they come up empty, and the next time they take people again, which supposed to be sent to work, but they, instead of sending him to work, it was Treblinka. And by end of 42, with all that action, what it was, all these things were taken out, with all the from the 400,000 people of the Warsaw Ghetto, people left. I was still very fortunate because I was working with that helmet company and so on, but at the same time we were preparing, since we were already then aware that there is Treblinka, that they're destroying Jews and so on. So the young people decided that we're going nowhere. There was a group of Jewish people who lived in the on those streets where the ghetto was established. It was their houses previously, or it was their buildings, and they built in the secret places, hideout places in the underground, if they're cellars and so on. Of course, they had their families, and they had their loved ones, they had their close ones. Let's say in the house I was working in, a factory underground, there was a bunker which I didn't know because it belonged to a Mr. Rosenberg who had a store before the war, you understand? And for him it was to keep his family rather there. So the people who were working and the young people, we didn't really know what is going on underground. And not only this, let's say if I would have a chance perhaps to go into one of those hiding places, I probably would have gone. But I was just one of the hundreds of the young people who were just outside. We were the outsider, and that was like 1,000 of them and so on. So like we were doomed. From one side you were working, the other side you were doomed. And it was a decision that we're going to put up as much fight as possible. The bulk of the ammunitions and guns which we received, the revolvers, were from the Italian army. The Italian Army Expedition Corps from Africa. They ran away, they came to Italy, and the German, they punished them right away, and they sent them with the same train to Poland. They came to Warsaw, and they were in their shorts. Outside in Warsaw, there was about 20-degree minus. They were freezing like hell, and we had some people on the station, and we tell them, we give you warmer clothes, we give you underwear, we give you this, give us the gun, give us the ammunition. And they just gave the stuff away because they were just freezing to death. And this way we were fortunate to get some of the majority of our guns which we use on Nalewki Street was Italian. As about when I start talking about the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto, I can only talk about my area, which is the Nalewki Street. The Nalewki Street started at Gęsia, where there was an entry to the ghetto, and it ended up on the Muranowski Square. Muranowski Square, and then to the left you were going to Mila and Niska in the direction of the Umschlagplatz. The whole Nalewki Street, the right side of the street, belonged to the factory which I was working. In other words, in every building, we had one they had the cleaning, one they had the sewing, one they had the boots, one had to repair the leather, one we had the helmets and so on. At the beginning, we had a few thousand people working, then it came down, the last amount was about 700 people. All the thing is documented. There are even some pictures, and there are even some pictures of myself from the Germans in the archives to be seen. We can do that at a later time. You'll be able to see it. I'm sending with my father and one of those things. It came the 1943, that the 20th of April, like we're talking about now, that's the birthday of Hitler, and they decided to do a big thing. As a gift, we're going to destroy the Warsaw Ghetto, and we're going to destroy all the Jews there. That's the gift we're going to give to the Führers. And on the 19th, all of a sudden, we've seen all around the ghetto units, additional units showing up. And they were from Estonia, they were Ukrainian from Travniki, all around from all the places. They're standing outside. So we were figuring out something they're going to be started. And it was also Seder night, the first night of Pesach. So we had some quick brachot, we had quick tefillot, we prayed a little bit, and all the young people, we all went up on the roof. And we went on the roof because from the roof to the roof, you were able to communicate and say what's going on. And that was the first night. Zatomit, we spent the night on the roof waiting for them, and then actually it started about 5 o'clock. That they prepared themselves, and they were so sure of themselves that they would be able to destroy the ghetto so quick that a very small amount of the real German SS came to on that morning in the Nalewki gate. I only talk about my gate. So they came in there with maybe with 16 SS men and Polish policemen. And they walked in like in a parade because they figured they're going to call all the Jews, go down the stairs. People will be going down and they be able to send the rest of the people who are still staying to the Umschlagplatz. Meanwhile, we had also a ladder of Jewish soldiers who served in the Polish army, and they ran away from prisoner of war camps. So they were like all by themselves. So, you know, we adapted them very much to the organization. They helped us how to use the guns and the strategy. There was somebody who took care of the Nalevki sector, and he said, listen, we're going to do an ambush. We're going to wait on the roofs. We're going to wait on the balconies. We had about 3-4 balconies. On the balconies, we had a few soldiers who had guns from the Polish army. They were still from the First War, Belgian guy. I remember, made in Belgium. I seen it like today, made in Belgium gun, and they were laying on the grounds of the and through the hole looking on the street. So the idea was to let all those people to go in from the beginning of Nalevki to the corner to the Buranovsky Square. And they walking like nonchalant, quiet, and with the speaker, all the Jews down, all the Jews down, all the Jews down. The moment they spread wide, and the Ukrainians start coming in, that they start getting ready for walking up the steps, open fire from the balconies. And it was very easy to get a couple of them, because it was such a big surprise. So it was a great ambush. It was an ambush. Psychologically, they were not prepared for that the Jews will do something like that. And it was so well organized. What does it say? Done. Okay, it's gone away. That we are succeeded to seeing a couple of deaths. We've seen people, they will start pulling it out. But most of all, everybody was running out back to the Gensha Street, to the exit. But this was one thing they didn't expect that will happen. And that was on the first day of the ghetto on the Nalevki. I don't know what was on the other street. I don't know what was on Ezer. You can imagine it was a great, great, great joy for us that we succeeded it. And we knew it that this is only the beginning. But, you know, once it got dark, they pulled out of the ghetto. In Warsaw, there was really at 1943 no German army station, you understand? So they didn't have prepared that thing. They had no plan. So the next day in the morning when they came with two little armor truck. We're talking about 2 people in it and things like this, with the perhaps on a rotating seat on the top, with the machine gun outside, light machine gun. And we let them go in, and then we start throwing the Molotov cocktails. Once we start throwing the Molotov cocktails, they came on the street. And on the street, they got the gas pipelines. We had the gas pipelines in the ghetto, which were getting underground the gas. So it looks like the fire started under the truck, and all of a sudden they start burning. And I seen it with all my eyes, like 4 guys coming out of it alive. And then later, of course, we're shooting, and so they running. And after the war, I got from the historian that the military commander of the German on the day of April 20 so-and-so is giving that those and those people got killed, and they give you the names, and they give you the names of the panzer. I have this too. In other words, of the events which I was just telling, I have a piece of, which is documentation, that 2 of those armored cars which came in. 4 of them, they got damaged so much, they got hurt that they died in a hospital thereafter. We have the names, we have the things on it, and so on. Of course, once the Germans seen that we're able to do all those things, they probably notified for getting more army to participate into the uprising. And then, of course, they get the support. General Strop came in with the great amount of troops. And the moment he came in, one thing he didn't want that has any killings of Germans. So what did they do? They made a lot of noise, surrounded one house, and little by little they dynamite the house. Waiting, so they dynamite one house, they dynamite 2 houses, and they were pulling back. And little by little they start dynamiting the houses, and in some of those places, there were also the people that are hiding in the cellars and so on. They had the pipes coming out between stones, so you didn't see it. And once the people's dynamite and the flamethrowers, it started the fire, and they start choking, they start coming out. The moment the people start coming out from the cellars in front of the houses, they were immediately killed. We were on the balconies, we were on the roofs, and just maybe 150 feet away, you hear the voice, Shema Israel, but then all of a sudden, ta 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 ta, it's quiet, ta 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 ta, it's quiet. You get something like this to remember, it's unbelievable, it's unbelievable. You hear the noises crying, you hear the prayers of people coming out from farther away because it's quiet. The only thing what you hear is when they come out, when they destroy the building, when they come out of the bunker. And we put up as much as possible. For every house, we were backing up 2 houses, and from the 2 houses, as much ammunition, as much was still left, as much as Molotov cocktails was left. They came, some of the fighters came from other streets we were already taken in, putting up resistance. The thing started on the 19th. I was there for 7 days. Every time it got dark, they pull out immediately. They were afraid, and the general didn't want to have any victims, any soldiers to be killed, so we had no chance to kill, but we were on the streets. Things were burning. So what we did, we went to the places we were burning. We were going to the places, to the hideouts. In front of the things, there were dead bodies laying. Gas was coming out, smelling. We were going down to the cellars looking for boxes of conserves of something because we had no food. And they're looking for something. So we found some here and there. We found the conserve box. We took the damn thing out in the dark. We came up to the corner where the fire was burning. We had some bayonets already. We opened the damn thing with the bayonet and we heated up. And sometimes there was peas, sometimes there was carrots, sometimes there were beans. Most of the times there were cucumbers. So we didn't know. So, you know, you heat the damn thing up and then you start dividing and you get a hot cucumber. Can you imagine? You didn't have a drink all day long and you start drinking the garlic sauce hot. It was terrible. It was terrible. But the 7 days of the fighting, the excitement and the adrenaline didn't in my memory, I had no craving for food. Neither we had a lot of conversation between us because my father was still around with another different, I was with the young people, he was with the other people. And then around I think the 27, 28, they came up already to the last house of the Nalevki. We had no more weapons, we had no more ammunition, we had no more things and so on. So they start grabbing and whatever still was there. And the fortunate way that they didn't shoot us at the particular place was because at that day, the press came in. And then we see the press from Hungary was there, Hungarian press, Swiss press, Red Cross, and so on. And then also the Germans making movies that they have the destruction they ghetto. So on that particular day, they didn't shoot us on the street, but they put us in columns to march, like you see in the picture with the little boy walking up there. So we were standing there. They put us up there with the hands up. And in the archive, there's also a picture of myself. We can bring it up on the next occasion and so on. So we stood there till they got it. All the people from the Nalevki, and they made us walk to the Umschlagplatz. We came to the Umschlagplatz. That was an old building from a hospital. It was a Jewish hospital before the war. And I think 3 flights high, 4 flights high, big rooms and so on. And they were empty. And they were filling us up. We came up there. You can imagine that's 1943. And God knows how many people came into those rooms before. So once we came in there, the rooms were dirty, filthy, in the corners, because there was no restrooms, there was nothing. The people from before, they did have whatever they think, eat and so on, and the urine and so on. And there wasn't enough people for the transport, but they needed about 100 people to send to every one of those wagons to be sent over. There came somebody from the German Deutsche Bundesreich, from the train company, and he was counting. The son of a bitches were counting everybody to come in, and it had to be 100 people in the train, in a wagon. Then they closed us up. There wasn't enough. Since there wasn't enough, the train didn't leave, and we are loaded. And then after a while, there came 3 loads with Jewish workers who were working at the airport in Warsaw airport. They took all the people working at the airport, which they were very important for them because they couldn't manage without them, and they took them and they put them in the train to fill up the quota. Our train started going. You're in a train. That for me, it was a really, really very hard thing. My father was in the train. Most of the people of our group together, we were 6, 7 days in the heat, from the smoke black, smell black, all that fire smoke in your clothes and everything smelled terrible, terrible. And the train started moving. So in the train, since we had an organized group, they said, listen, let's get somebody up to the windows in the wagon. They had like 2, 3 windows, which they were closed with wire from the outside that you couldn't escape. And was also, but you were able to see. So let's get some people who knew where we're going. So there was always somebody who knew where we're going. So we got him going up to pushing them from the middle because he knew how to go. Then they said, anybody who speaks here German, because there are some German in Russian speaking. The Russian people were on the roof. So we had a guy who came from Russian, and then they took me. And let's say I was in the middle of the, surrounded by 100 people, like, you know, like a sardine. And then they said, okay, Michael, come try to get closer to the wall where the window is. You understand, Rafi? So they start pushing me in between, till I got close to the wall of the, you know, of the wagon. I come closer, there were 2 or 3 bodies there at the corner. So I stepped on a body and hold on with my hands to be able to hold on to the window. You understand what I'm talking about? The window was higher. You stood on a body and you're trying to balance. It was wild, it was wild. And here you're standing and the train is going tick-a-tack, tick-a-tack, tick-a-tack. You're going in the morning, you know, and the whole goddamn life, the whole 16, 17 years of your life goes by. You know where you're going. You know where you're going. I'm holding hard with my last to the window to be able to see outside. And because balance, they push me in the back that I'm able to stay straight. And the train is moving slowly. Some people were praying, some people were saying Kaddish, some people were crying. It was an inferno. It was an inferno. And then all of a sudden, halt, the train stops. The train stops. Everybody, what do you see? What do you see? I'm looking at it. And I keep saying, I see 2 command cars of Germans. They stopped the train. And the command cars were on the side. And they were from the Air Force. So they stopped the train. And then on the roof of the car, of the wagon, there were Ukrainians. So they say, "Nie strelać," not to shoot, because they were Germans. At the beginning, they thought the partisans trying to stop. Later, they found out were Germans. And then we see those officers, they had a telephone on the command car, and the guy was turning the telephone, you know, with like this and talking and this like this. It was all of a sudden silent in our car. Silent, because what's going to happen next? And the next thing, the locomotive pushed the train back. And we went back like maybe 50 or 100 feet back. And they rerouted the train in the direction to Lublin, because the Air Force, they needed those people to work at the Air Force. And they called up the high command that they need them, otherwise they have to close the airport. So instead of going to the Treblinka, we were routed to Lublin Majdanek, to Lublin Airport. And that was the only one train. It was also the last train from Warsaw. It is documented. And can you imagine the train, after backing up, whistle, and we keep going in another direction, and the guys who standing there says, "We're not going to Treblinka, we're going a different place." After a while, we got to Lublin. We came to Lublin, everybody out, and those 2 cars with the officers are there, they're having pieces of paper, and you know how the Germans are. They have their list of people, and they start calling Abramovich, Berkovich, and says, according to the ABC, to get their people, and the people start lining up. Their people who all work there on the airport. As this is going on, in that place, in that camp, they were also repairing things for the uniforms and so on. So they had tailors, they had everything. So they also had machine shops, and they had agents who were looking for people to work. So one of the guy comes up, he says, I need some mechanics. So we all mechanics. And my father is speaking in German. We are mechanics. He says, yes, but you build planes? Yes, we are build planes. If you would say we are barbers, we are barbers. You would say we're tailors, we're tailors. So he says, okay, I got 3 lorries for 100 people. Take 100 people you know who working. And he took me and asked me, he showed me a blueprint if I know how to read the blueprint, which I know. And I told them, and I said, this guy, they are all working with me. And I picked all those people with the black faces, all the people work with me. That means all the young group, the bulk of the people which we picked for the 3 lorries were our fighting group, which we were all the time together in the Warsaw Ghetto. We came on the lorries and they brought us to the Camp Budzin. After that, they took us to Mielec, and that was the only air factory in Poland where they're working planes. They made little duster planes and Airbus and things like this. But Goering took over all the factories because he wanted to have the factories working for planes going to be under his auspices and so on. So he said, look, I'm going to go in a big, and they enlarged the thing. But Goering will tell you the story later. Why did he interest in having Jewish people to work? I may as well make it very short here. He was in the first war in the Air Force with Richthofen, Baron Richthofen, like in a, one person plane flying and so on. And his best friend was the name Milch, a guy Milch. The father of the Milch was a Jewish drugstore man. Milch was a Jew. And they were together in the first war. So he stayed with them all his life. And all the knowledge with Goering had about aviation, everything, it came from Milch. Milch became in the German army. He became a high officer. And not only this, in order to because Hitler and the Nazis, they wanted to kill him. Goering made him marshal. He was marshal of the Air Force, Jew, Milch, Edward Milch. And they wanted all the Jews to work in the aviation. So thanks to him, they start taking Jewish people to work at Messerschmitt, at Heinkel, and so on. And thanks to him, they saved a lot of people from us, because we worked in Messerschmitt. Once the Russians start coming with the front, they took us all because we were valuable workers from the north, from Poland, in the direction to Auschwitz, in direction to Plaszow. I came to Plaszow, and Plaszow, they had, we are the workers for Messerschmitt. They sent us to Wieliczka, which is underground factory. But the underground factory of planes, they were building motors, and we were building planes. We were a different company. So we came to Wieliczka. They couldn't have used us. Meanwhile, the Messerschmitt in Germany is asking, where's my transport? Where's the transport? So there was about 1,300 people. About 500 people of them, that was ghetto fighters, the whole group, who were in Camp Budzin, in Camp Mielec, in Camp Wieliczka, and now they taking the train and they took us to Auschwitz, to the gates of Auschwitz. And we were standing there. Hungarians were coming there. We heard the Hungarians screaming for water, viz, water. Then we had other trains coming, screaming via Greek. And our train was not disloaded. And after a while, a locomotive from the other side picked us up, pulled us out from Auschwitz. Can you imagine? Pulled us out from the gate of Auschwitz. We were out in front. We didn't come inside. And we went to Czechoslovakia for 2 days, to Bavaria. And we came to Camp Flossenburg, where they had the Regensburg Messerschmittwerke. And I came in there on August the 3rd or something. We were from Plaszow to Flossenburg 3 days, 4 days on the way in the wagons, without food, without nothing. Once we came into Flossenburg on a hot day in August, they opened up we were not able to go out. We had no strength. We were just stuck to each other, dead bodies together, some people, just no strength. So at the station in Floss, there were people from the camp working, loading granite stones, because in Flossenburg there were also granite, you know, how you say that, Rudy? Quarry, yes, quarry. They had granite there, and they would mine, and there were people working for them, getting the big stones out, and they were loading it and building palaces in Nuremberg. So they start taking buckets. I remember, I never forget that the buckets were made out of wood. It said, a fire. That was the fire baskets, and they get fired. They fill them up with water, and they start throwing the water into the heads of our heads, water. And they start bringing us water and dividing us water. It took time. Nobody could walk out. It took time. Till we got out, and little by little we start getting out. And then, of course, there was quite a few bodies, people who didn't survive, and they were prepared for that. There were about 3-4 carts. The carts were with oxen or with cows. There were no horses on it, and the people who were working, the prisoner from the concentration camp from Flossenburg, start loading up the dead people. But meanwhile, we were standing up and getting a lot of water to drink. They gave us water to drink because we had to walk to the camp. I think to walk to the camp from the station was about 3 kilometers. Can you imagine, after 3-4 days without nothing out of a train, we walked. So now all of a sudden we keep walking. They want us to sing. Ein Lied to sing. Can you imagine? You're dead. Some of the people fall, even walking, they fall. But they didn't hit you, they didn't think, because Messerschmitt is waiting for you. All of a sudden, it got close after a while. We're coming to the little village of Flossenburg. And we see some older women on the streets and so on. They all start crossing themselves, looking at us. Can you imagine? We looked terrible, and we smelled terrible, probably. And we were crawling. And as we were getting closer in the direction where the camp was, all of a sudden, we smell the crematorium. Can you imagine? It was a letdown. The moment we smelled the crematorium, the religious guy right away Kaddish. And they start doing the Kaddish. Iskadal V'day. And you walk over Iskadal, and you're getting closer to the camp. Because we couldn't, all the thing you went through, all the ride and all the thing, and now the crematorium. So then we came on the Appellplatz. From the Appellplatz, they took us to the special sector, which was enclosed to the people who coming in from the outside, like a quarantine. They put us all to a quarantine closure, and they brought buckets with water first and filled us up with water, sprayed us with water. And then they keep telling us that, listen, here is a factory, you guys, you're going to work, and we're going to take little at a time people out and so on. And then actually they start taking out every time 100 people, and to first of all they took all the clothing off. We had to shave. Then we had to go down to take a shower. Then they gave us the clothes and so on. And August 4th, from April to August 4th, I was on the way. It was a long way. August 4th, I start working for Messerschmitt, 1944. And that was the time that they were trying to kill Hitler. So all of a sudden, they start bringing in all the VIPs who participated, also all the generals and everybody to the camp. It was like a VIP camp. Of course, they were not with us in the barrack, but they were. But we were working on 2 shifts, 12 hours, walking, 3-4 kilometers. I don't know how I made it. Really, I don't know, Rafi. You think about it, it's abnormal to think about it. Abnormal to think about it. Abnormal to think about it. Hey, it's abnormal to think about it. Abnormal to think about it. I was from the Warsaw Ghetto. I was in a train car with my father to Budzin. And in Budzin, they were looking for people who speak German and translate and so on. They took him for a translator. So he was sitting like in a little budke there as a translator. And I was in another group going to work, people on the planes and so on. So he wasn't working on the planes. And I just found out the things after the war. And we were getting transports from all over. And one day we did get a transport from Minsk, the place where my father was born. And there came a transport of Jews from Minsk to Budzin. And they were telling that they destroyed Minsk, they destroyed everything. So this I all found out later from people who survived, who stayed alive, and they told me about it. So in the middle of the night, my father committed suicide and he ran into the electrical wire. Without saying goodbye, without nothing. He just finding out that, he lost the family, lost the wife. About me, there was no goodbye, like when he found out that the whole family in Minsk, everybody's destroyed and so on. I found out about it much, much later from the people later when they came to work that they are from Minsk and so on and so on. So that was so much. And now my father's killed there, and they're waking me up in the middle of the night, and they keep saying, look, your father had an accident. And usually the Germans, they don't want to leave witnesses. They're going to kill you tomorrow. All you have to do listen. So I said, what I have to do? I said, you're going to go to the commanding officer and request your father's jacket, Rafi. And for us, scared shit, man. You can't imagine. Can you imagine it? I do what they have to tell you because they done it before. So in the morning, I don't go to work. I request to see there, and I come in there. I'm standing in front of the guy. He's walking around me, and he's got that, what you say when you hit the horse with the, you hit the horse with the little ladder.
Like a whip.
Like
a whip.
Like a lip. And he goes with the lip, he touches me like this, and then he walks around. And I say, look, I'm an expert and I'm working and I want to contribute for the German Reich and so on. And the winter is coming and I would like to have my father's jacket. He's laying out there. So he didn't know what I'm talking about. So he says, what is laying up there? He says, yeah, he's laying up there. He said he had an accident. So then he understood that they shot him at night. So you know what it says? Permission granted, permission granted. And then he says to me, if I see you without this jacket, and then he took the gun out, he said, pack, pack. And he said, go back to the barrack. A couple hours later, I got my father's jacket with the hole where the bullets are, fixed, repaired. There was a little bit blood spot still left, but the thing was hot things closed and so on. And I had to wear the jacket from that day on. So the next few days, since I was wearing the jacket, they said, look, you're the only one working with the jacket in the first 5 of the group, you understand? And the guy reporting, we coming from work, and then he looked at me, hey, he was proud to see me with the jacket. So they made inside of the jacket pockets. So whatever I was able to bring to the camp, like carrots, potatoes, or something from work, that was put in the jacket. The jacket was so heavy that when we were working the kilometers from work to the camp, I wasn't carrying it, you understand? It was so heavy. Then when we came into the gate, I put the jacket on, and the people who stood after me, they were holding it, the weight, you follow? Because I was so weak to hold, maybe there was 2 pounds of potatoes or 4 pounds of carrots or whatever it was. That extra weight, they were helping me in the back. I stood, and the guy laughed. He put the goddamn jacket under my neck. Hey, and I was the first one to go in the camp. The moment I came in the camp, they took my jacket, which was so heavy that I couldn't carry it. And my father's jacket with the food saved a lot of people, because that's the way we were bringing in the food. Can you imagine? But listen, I was with the jacket with my father a long, long time. It was a terrible thing. Can you imagine that, you know? Wearing a jacket with the hole of where your father got killed. Yeah. That's terrible, 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 terrible. So you get over that. One thing, you know where I am. Rafi, we're going to meet again. We're going to get the groups together. We're going to talk to them. We shall overcome and we shall survive. That's all.
Amen.
We got to be strong. We got to be strong. We got to be strong.